Welcome to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. Thanks for joining us today, folks. It is a beautiful day that the Lord has made. It's April 28th of 2025, and we've got more guests for you than usual because there's so much going on. We want to get this information to you. We'll skip the formalities and just go right to the word. This is from 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. The Bible reads, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love." Very good reminder, folks. And in fact, Christ says one of the ways that people will know we are his is by the way we love one another. So let's never lose sight of that. Let's not let our hearts grow cold. Big news on all kinds of fronts, folks. We'll go through it as quickly as we can. Senator Ron Johnson has just announced that we need hearings, in his opinion, in the Senate about 9/11. He says what happened is not what we think. Check it out.
And I know that we're up against a hard out. Just one final question, since you brought it up. What would you like to know about September 11th, the official story there, Senator?
Well, start with Building 7. Again, I don't know that you can find structural engineers other than the ones that had the corrupt investigation inside NIST that would say that that thing didn't come down in any other way than a controlled demolition.
And it goes on, folks. It is a really powerful segment. So we appreciate Senator Johnson here very much. I was on a panel discussion with him just a couple weeks ago, and he's one of the few in Washington, D.C., in Congress that is actually genuinely fighting for us, not just pretending because he's got an election coming up. So kudos to Senator Johnson. Now, there's some weird news for you. Prominent Jeffrey Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre, reportedly died by suicide at age 41 just last week. She was, of course, one of the leading exposers of the pervert Jeffrey Epstein, the child sex trafficker who was running around with our uber elites, business leaders, government leaders. Truly incredible. Her family put out a statement saying she was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. She was the light that lifted so many survivors. Now, a lot of people asking whether it was really a suicide. We, of course, don't know, but there are some very obvious questions there. And no, Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, obviously. Turning to Florida, my home state, we've got Florida Democratic leader in the Senate, Jason Pizzo, leaving the party. He had some scathing words for his former party in his speech on the Senate floor. And folks, this is the Senate minority leader in the Florida legislature, okay? He says the Democratic Party in Florida is dead. It craves and screams anarchy and then demands amnesty. That is not okay. He says this is not the party of JFK that his dad volunteered for when he was 18 in 1960. Incredible, folks. The Democratic Party is in full-on implosion. Only the Republicans could possibly ruin this opportunity for themselves. And if you know the Republicans, there's a very good chance they'll do that. So let's try to keep them in line. Now, some incredible Christian folks, the Amish, rebuilding the community of Chimney Rock in North Carolina out of the goodness and generosity of their hearts. There are 2,000 members of the Pennsylvania Amish community there who've been quietly rebuilding these homes for months. Check it out.
We work mostly in Chimney Rock, some down in Batcave.
These volunteers are members of the Great Needs Trust, an Amish community in Pennsylvania, offering not just their skilled hands and their time, but their compassion as well.
We wanted to help the people that had the disaster.
You gotta love the Amish, folks. There's a reason why the government's trying to come after them now. They're doing raids on their raw milk and they're trying to tax them and all this. These are some really great, godly people. And even if you disagree with their theology a little bit, recognize they're doing what they're called to do, right? Be holy, keep themselves unspotted from the world, and also love and serve their neighbors, as we're seeing right now in North Carolina. So may God bless them. Say a prayer for them. It's obviously a big sacrifice. Leave your farm and go help people rebuild in the aftermath of a catastrophic storm. Now, turning to another group of Christians trying to live in a little bit of peace in South Africa, which is a giant dumpster fire. And of course, I used to live in South Africa. There's a little tiny Calvinist enclave in the middle of the desert called Orania. And it's for Afrikaners. You must speak Afrikaans to live there. So no, none of us, unless you're an Afrikaner, could go live there. You got to be a Christian. Christ is King is something they proclaim regularly. And now one of the biggest hate groups in South Africa, a Marxist revolutionary group that splintered off from the ruling party, the ANC, is demanding that this little enclave be obliterated. Check it out. Here is their leader.
The fight against Orania is not a distraction. It is a frontline struggle for the soul of South Africa. The existence of all white towns in the 21st century in a province where the majority live in poverty is an insult. Is an insult to the working class and to the values of the liberation struggle.
And it goes on, folks. I mean, the hate that some of these revolutionary Marxist leaders have is just unbelievable. I want to show you just a little video of some of the schoolgirls in this town singing, so you can get a sense of what this community is like. Can't have a peaceful little town where God is honored in the middle of the desert, by the way, not bothering anybody. Can't have that. No, I got to steal that. Got to destroy that. Folks, this is terrible. And we'll be bringing you more updates. Again, South Africa is close to my heart. I love the peoples of South Africa, having lived there. And we'll bring you updates on this. It's terrible what is going on there. But of course, folks at the New American Magazine predicted this back in the 1980s. So, surprise. Now, there is a pastor who's currently under house arrest in Canada for the terrible crime of protesting perversion in front of children. Yes, Drag Queen Story Hour. He's under 24/7 curfew. There you see him on your screen. Folks, this is incredible, but it is happening. And it's not happening in some far-off Middle Eastern country. This is happening in Canada, in Alberta. So, folks, there's now an effort to ask the government to release this man. We'll keep you updated on more. Now, the Trump administration is proposing an end to U.S. funding for the UN's peacekeeping function, also known as the UN's war-making function. The White House Budget Office is proposing eliminating all of the funding for the UN's peacekeeping forces. They've got operations going on all over Africa, the Congo, Mali, and Lebanon. And, of course, the U.S. government, the U.S. taxpayer, is the largest contributor. And this is a UN military that is known and infamous around the world for raping children, killing civilians, targeting women. It's really a nasty, nasty group. So kudos to Donald Trump for proposing cuts to that monstrosity. You probably remember New York Attorney General Letitia James. Yeah, the lady who ruthlessly targeted Trump, just like she said she would on the campaign trail, for fake crimes. She has now been referred to the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud. Ooh, that has got to hurt. Yeah. So really weird things happening with some of her mortgages and some of her properties. And the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency has now sent evidence over to the DOJ suggesting that the New York Attorney General has been involved in massive levels of fraud. We'll see what happens. But hoisted by her own petard, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Now, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has made the neocons really mad, but she issued a declaration last week that actually vindicates what Donald Trump was saying and the work of election integrity activists. She says, and I want to show you, that we have evidence of how the electronic voting machines are vulnerable to hackers. Check it out.
We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Yeah, and folks, pay attention. Pay attention. They're going to try to steal the midterms. We'll have Mike Lindell on to break that down in just a moment. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, says the autism epidemic is clearly caused by environmental factors. Check it out.
Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old.
Yeah, folks, don't believe the fake media. Okay, just find out what the truth is on your own, because you can't trust fake media. Now, the Communist Chinese are now literally threatening our medical care. They literally have a lock on the pharmaceutical industry and at least the precursors to the pharmaceuticals, everything from antibiotics to blood thinners, even equipment like nitrate gloves, masks, syringes, and they are threatening to use that monopoly. Their state-run propaganda agency, doubling as an intelligence agency, Xinhua, is warning that they might use their control over these industries to retaliate against the United States. So, folks, time to break our dependence on the Communist Chinese that was brought about by the government very deliberately. World Health Organization just concluded its negotiations, and they are getting ready to foist a pandemic treaty on the world. We've exposed that here on this show before. We are not involved at the moment, but the evildoers know we'll eventually get another deep state Democrat puppet in the White House. So it's time for Congress to do its job and get us out of this monstrosity. Now, one of the child savers from the British Parliament, Dan Norris with the far-left Labour Party, just arrested on charges of raping children, kidnapping children, and much more. His name was Dan Norris, and he wasn't just any British politician. He was one of the big players, a huge asset of the globalist machine, massive Trump hater, and now he's got 20 years worth of crimes apparently catching up with him. He claimed to be a big protector of children. Well, he's probably going to be going to jail for quite a while. And now the kidnapped American pastor in South Africa rescued, praise the Lord. Josh Sullivan has been rescued in a shootout. All three captors in the car with him dead, and he survived. So we praise the Lord for that. Now, folks, before we go to break, I do want to let you know, check out our friends over at refiningrhetoric.com, an incredible podcast by my friend Robert Bortons, who's the CEO of Classical Conversations. Great, great program. And folks, go check out the rest of our sponsors. You can find it at libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org, and you'll see a whole list there. You can support our program by shopping with our sponsors, and you can also send in a donation if you're so inclined. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more here on the Sentinel Report.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
I'm Alex Newman, your host. We have a very, very special guest joining us today, the one and only Mike Lindell, founder and CEO of the great company MyPillow. Of course, I sleep on MyPillow every night. I love that stuff. Mike, it's great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Alex. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a great honor. Mike, I want to start with elections. I know you have been, you've dedicated a lot of years of your life now to this issue. We're seeing some action at the state level, some action at the federal level. Where do you think we are in the big scheme of things, and what more needs to be done?
Well, it's, I don't know if everybody's seen the news lately. I'm still being attacked by big machine companies and lawsuits and lawfare. They've attacked me and MyPillow more than anything now. And why is that, everybody? Because I want to get rid of the machines that go to paper ballots hand counted. That's the only reason, everybody. If I walked away from this, they'd go, okay, we're fine with him. We won't attack anymore. But we're in a great place with the president about a month ago. I met with him about a month ago. I'm going to be meeting with him in a week and a half. And he came out after that meeting with a executive order. It's about 70% of what we need. There was all kinds of great things in there. Tulsi Gabbard came out, as you all know, and said, hey, there were problems with these machines. And then it was all over the place. Mike Lindell's been vindicated. Mike Lindell's been vindicated. I'm going, you guys, for me, the vindication's going to come when we go to paper ballots hand counted. Now, we are working, Alex, we're working from the bottom up. We still have the Cause of America, the Election Crime Bureau. I have over 300,000 people on the ground in all 50 states. We're working very hard there at that county level to get to where we need to get to. And then you have the president from the top down. We're under a very critical timeline because they need to be gone by next year at this time, or maybe June at the latest. That the uniparties, especially the Republican Party, steals their candidates in where? The primaries. That's why when you get to the general elections, you go, how did this guy get here? Who put this guy in? I'll tell you who put him in, a computer. There you go. And so we're under this timeline, but the public has shifted. Even the media somewhat has shifted. You're not going to see any of this on Fox News or Newsmax, because of lawfare. But now they can't hide stuff because our voices have expanded so much for the last 4 years with great podcasts like your own, great platforms, and all different social media sites now. So as we get good news, it gets magnified. And then you have all these uniparty Republicans that shove back on me that were our blockers. I call them blockers. The Brad Rassenbergers of the world, the Robin Vosses of the world, the Kim Hammers of Arkansas. These guys blocked us. And now you're going to see the next level that we're, following their lead. They're going to go, hey, the president wants this. We better go along with him or we're going to stand out and like a sore thumb. So that's good news that has shifted. Just everybody know, you have probably all seen in the news. And by the way, everybody, I had vocal cord surgery. That's why I'm a little hoarse here. But the devil's been trying to steal my voice there since 2016. I've had eight surgeries now. But but anyway, with where we're at now, you see the news out there. Mike Lindell is weeping in court with Smartmatic. I mean, this is all over the news. They're still attacking me. I wasn't weeping, by the way, everybody. Okay, they want you to tell you that hey, if you go against the machine company, you too can be broken in court weeping for mercy. Not true. All we went to court for was to tell the judge. They told the judge I had $53 million in a checking account. And they made a little mistake, maybe $5,000, not $53 million. So, but wow. Normally, but they did it just to leak it out of court and make it look like that I'm that. But I will tell everybody, we do need your help. If anybody wants to help, you go to LindellPlan.com. We need to secure our elections. I've had that site up, which got the Election Crime Bureau. It's LindellPlan.com. Go there and see what's going on locally and help out. We also have Vocal.com, VOCL.com. That's the election app right there. So I'm very encouraged, Alex.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Mike. I'm so glad to hear it. And folks, you can also support Mike and his work by going to MyPillow.com and ordering from there. If you use the promo code Newman, you're going to get big discounts on some of the best products on the market. Not only have great products, but you're also going to be able to help fund this incredible effort to save our country. Mike, I want to turn to Tina Peters. You and I were talking a little bit before we went live, and you mentioned that there was good news. I'll tell you what, I'm really excited. Share with the folks the great news happening with Tina right now.
Well, this about a month ago, our president came out with the administration came out with, and they can't pardon her, you guys. This is a state thing versus federal. Everyone says, well, why doesn't the president just go in there and pardon her? The president sent out it's called like a petition of interest or something like that. I forget what it's called. And they put that out in Colorado. Now, in Colorado, the corrupt politicians are some of the worst in the United States, starting with Jenna Griswold. Anyway, their attorney general there, and they fought or told the judge to suppress that, to just ignore what the president's administration said. Yesterday, everybody, if you look it up, the judge ruled no. We are going to look at this. We are going to look at this. It might seem insignificant to a lot of you out there. This is a big win for a state full of corruption. And all of a sudden, a judge makes a ruling against their own state and said, hey, let's look into this. Let's get, he said, we're going to look at this. You guys both bring your stuff. I mean, here's a Gold Star mom that's in prison for 9 years and not even be able to get out in an appeal. Never had a jaywalking ticket in her life, ever. She wasn't, I don't even know if she was a Republican. I think she was like neutral. And she was a county clerk doing her job. And this is a political prisoner. And I don't even call it a political, it's an evil. It's just evil, holding her hostage, using her, saying, if you speak out about the machines, or go against the voting machines, you too can be in prison like Tina Peters. They call it, I think they have a name for it in Colorado. You get Tina Peters. You want to get Tina Peters? You know?
It is crazy, Mike. It's absolutely crazy. But we have seen some really interesting developments, like Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who was going after Donald Trump. Now it looks like she's got quite a few skeletons in her closet.
Right.
Do you think we need federal investigations of something? Are we talking about criminal activity in Colorado to railroad an innocent person? And if so, do we need federal investigations going on here?
Well, I think that, the lawyers that I'm covering now, by the way, you guys can check out the Lindell Offense Fund or the Lindell Plan. That also, those funds are going to cover Tina Peters' attorneys and stuff. So you guys can help all that way. It's a new angle. You're exactly right, Alex. It needs to be investigated. In Colorado, there were so many crimes committed, not just against the people of Colorado, but us as the United States. Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State of Colorado, she did more stuff. Remember, she's a Democrat. She was almost neck and neck with crooked Brad Raffensperger down in Georgia, a Republican. She deleted everybody, all of the data of the 2020 election and called it the trusted bill. That was my evidence too in my lawsuits. So it was illegal. You're supposed to hold them 22 months by federal law, 26 months, I believe, by Colorado law. They deleted it all with all their machines. Now, also, there was another crime committed. She's accusing Tina Peters that a password leaked to the internet that was, by the way, that was completely invalid. It had timed out. In the state of Colorado, she had a breach. All the passwords went out to all over Colorado, which from the Secretary of State's office. So there is so much crime that underneath that in Colorado that involves the whole country, because that's the one place where we have the image that shows what the computers did in Mesa County, Colorado. And remember, that first investigation was not about the general election. It was about Mesa County's election, where it was a deviation. It was impossible that all these Democrats won on these things. That was the first thing where the people came to Tina Peters and said, hey, there's something wrong here. This is impossible. There must be something going on. And so she's going, well, being the county clerk says, well, I better look into it.
Wow. Well, this is encouraging. Before we go to break, Mike, I do want to ask, are you optimistic? I mean, based on what we've seen so far in the first few months of the Trump administration and based on what we're seeing at the state level, are you optimistic that we're going to turn our country around?
Yes, I'm going to tell you real quick here. With the president and I last summer, I was sitting with him, and he goes, and I was telling him how all the destruction of our country was actually a good thing. God uses all things for good, because everybody was opening people's eyes. And he looked at me and said, but Mike, I don't know if we can get it fixed in the 4 years. And he looks at me, I look at him and I said, sir, with God, all things are possible. And God working through you, you'll get it done faster and better than anyone. You guys, look what he's done so far. This is a miracle. It is a miracle of what's going on. We are only a few months into this. And you know what? This is why I tell you that the evil's got one big card to play, and that's stealing the House and the Senate during these next midterms. That's why it's so important to get to paper ballots and counted. By the way, Alex, they stole 4 senators and 9 congressmen in the 2024 election that we know of.
Wow. Yeah, and folks, that with the thin margin we've got in Congress, that can be the difference between passing a law to help save the country or not being able to get it passed. Mike, this has been fantastic. We're going to continue this discussion for our subscribers. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after the break here on the Sentinel Report. And for those of you who want to see the rest of this discussion, get over to libertysentinel.org, sign up for the newsletter there. And Mike, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks so much for being with us, folks. We appreciate you more than you know. Now, one of the things that we've talked about a lot on this program is the deliberate undermining of our economy, our middle class, the shipping of our jobs and industries and factories overseas by deliberate policy, sending it to communist China, building up the military-industrial complex of our most important geopolitical enemy. Truly amazing. We have a very special guest joining us today to talk about how we bring back jobs, how we bring back manufacturing to this country, and also what's going on the election integrity front. Our guest is Steve Stern. He's the Chief Operations Officer for the Flag Shirt. It's the largest provider of patriotic gear in the United States. He also is the host of the Stern American Show on Rumble. He's a veteran, business owner. He does a lot of different work. He's also the vice chair of the Broward Republican Executive Committee. That's the Republican Party down in Broward County. Welcome to the program, Steve. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me. And, I've been in business 71 years, so I've seen it all. And I originally started going over to Korea and Taiwan, and before we started making goods in the United States. So we do everything. We do it in the United States and LA, as well as bring stuff from all over the country. So how do we bring back stuff back to the United States? Well, there's different industries that have a problem. And, we do a lot of business in Taiwan. When I first went over there, they were like us way back in the industry days, in the 1900s when we started doing our manufacturing, and they were doing the same thing over there. Now, how do we bring stuff back? Well, the first thing is it's going to be a little difficult because the wages that we have to do are so high that in many of these cases in these countries, it's tough to do. So yes, the tariffs help, but also the tariffs could be putting a lot of people out of business. So it's a big balancing area. So we do stuff in every country, almost all over the world. We have many, many different areas. We have a 60,000-foot building with two studios. One I do interviews, one I interview people. And also we have different type businesses. So we have ladies' business, men's businesses. We ship for people. So we try to do everything because I sold pennies $14 million a year for 41 years. And I started my career in Taiwan. When I first went over there was buildings that were like, say, 10 floors high. And everybody worked in the building for 28 straight days and 2 days off. So your question is a very tough one because it's a balancing act. How do we bring the furniture back that we're doing 82% in China? Very difficult, because what happened was when Nixon started this whole thing way back, he made them a favorite, a country, and we've never changed that. So therefore, they have all the avenues. They also have many skilled workers. My son went over to China, and I've never been over there. I've been to Hong Kong and every other country, but he told me they built whole cities. There's nobody in the cities, so they keep people working. So we have to compete with low wages, and that's a very difficult thing to do. So I think what we have to do is we have to start training people. But one of the things, and you could see pictures of me back with President Trump. I've been up to see him a number of times. And that's how we got involved in our election security thing. Back in one of the pictures here, you see I was up there 2 days before the 2020 election. And he asked me what I thought about the 2024 election. And I said to him, well, look, they haven't changed anything. The fraud is still there. And he said, you're right. He says, I know you're doing a precinct strategy Zoom meeting because I endorsed your precinct strategy. Why don't you do an election security meeting? Well, about 5 weeks later, I started doing that. And we were getting 200 to 500 people on. And about 8 months ago, I was on Steve Bannon in the morning. And he did a strange thing. He usually gives me 5-6 minutes. He gave me about 12. And he put my email on the bottom of the screen, and we had 1,000 people sign up. And then he said, which changed my whole career. He said, I'm going to put this live on Getter, and I'm going to put this live on the War Room, And the next day, Maureen Bannon called me and said, hey, we got 68,000 people to watch. Well, then as an 83-year-old guy, you got to learn something new every day. And what I learned was that I had to start calling all my friends like you who have podcasts and putting them live. So just last week, we had a huge election security call with 8 million people. And Steve Gruber, when I was on, questioned me on how I got the people. So let me tell your audience how we get that many people, because that's huge. And it's in 89 different countries. So when Bannon put it live, I started calling up people like Cloud Hub, Lindell TV, podcasters all over the country. Spent a lot of time doing that. And last week we had 184 podcasters on. We had Getter, we had X, we had Rumble, we had Facebook, Cloud Hub, Lindell TV, Stern American, radio. We had OBBM Network. So we started branching out, and that started bringing more and more people on. And, you know, I give an honest opinion. It could have been more than 8 million people, because we have people like yournews.com, totalnews.com, where they don't even know how many people they get on. And we have a lot of people like that. So my friends are doing a great job on this. And last week we did an amazing thing. We did a podcast where half was election integrity and the other half was for Tina Peters. Now, a lot of people don't know who Tina Peters is. She's in jail in Colorado for things that they said she did, which are ridiculous, and got 9 years, a 70-year-old mom, Gold Star mom. So about 4 months ago, I started talking about people at Tina Peters, and we had this on, and we decided to have people do a little podcast, and we had 50 people do 1 minute, 2 minute podcasts, and we had these all on, and then Tina Peters came on live for 9 minutes. Anybody that wants to see it, go to Stern American. You can see it there. The Stern American Rumble has it on there. We had Mike Lindell on. Mike Lindell saw President Trump about 8-9 weeks ago, and he was up there talking about different things about election integrity. And he turned and he said to President Trump, Tina Peters. And President Trump says to his attorneys, get her to you-know-what out of jail. So the Justice Department has worked on doing all this stuff and has helped. Then we had Kimberly Fletcher on from Moms for America. She's got 500,000 women that are going to help us. We had Dr. Frank on. He testified for Tina Peters on it. We had something very unusual. Mark Cook did a group in Arizona live and started talking to the people and asking them what they thought. And they came on and talked about Tina Peters and how we have to help her. We had Joe Hoft on.
Steve, we're just about out of time in this segment. We got to cut in and go to break, but I do want to ask you how people can follow you. We actually have Lindell in this episode as well, talking about some of those very issues. So people will get the latest on that, but how can people follow you and your work?
So go to Stern American One Thing, email me at stern1054@gmail.com. You can get all this information. We have tons of information about precinct strategy, all about our election integrity. You're showing the flag shirt. We're going to do a Flag Day event on June the 14th, which is Flag Day. We're going to try to get President Trump to come on. We're going to be doing an event here May the 14th where we're going to have tons of people on. So get involved. Be a committee man, committee woman. I think you're a committee man up in Volusia. So it's very important. We got 200,000 people. We get on all kind of programs. Thank you very much for having me on. We'll try to get on again and give you more information. It's been a pleasure being on your program. And, we're glad to, again, get everybody involved. stern1054@gmail.com. Call me at 954-318-6902. I answer all the calls. I answer all the emails. We get everybody involved. And the next time we'll get a little bit more information out. Thanks so much for having me. Action, action, action.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you, Steve Stern, Chief of Operations at the Flag Shirt. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back with more after this quick break from our sponsors.
Are you concerned about your child's education? Have you considered looking into alternatives to public school but don't know where to start? Greater Than I Ministries will give you the tools you need with a free Home Educators Kit and 15% off our Thinking Like a Christian Biblical Worldview video series. Available on DVD or streamed to your home or device, this series will thoroughly equip you and your family with the truth you need about the battle of ideas being waged against our families and our nation. And our free Home Educators Kit will provide you with links directly connecting you with all the resources you need if you're considering rescuing your children from the public indoctrination schools. Go to gtimin.com and click the green banner at the top to receive your free Home Educators Kit and 15% off our Thinking Like a Christian Worldview video series. Again, that's gtimin.com and click the green banner at the top. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, young entrepreneurs, I think, are really, really important. I mean, the kids going through the government school system are learning, well, gender theory, climate change, things like that. But homeschooling is a whole other world. And so I'm very blessed, not just with my own kids, but kids that we come in contact with, to find quite a few young entrepreneurs who are doing productive things, creating goods and services, adding value, creating wealth. And today we have joining us two of my favorite young entrepreneurs. They actually live not too far from me. They have an incredible business. Just today, I actually got the latest batch of our QP goat soaps. These we use as gifts because they're just awesome. I take them with me everywhere I go now, no matter where in the world I am. It's just amazing. And the masterminds behind this operation join us today, Quinn and Grace Pittman. Quinn, Grace, thank you guys very much for joining me. It's an honor to have you back on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
It's a pleasure. So, Quinn, I want to start with you. You started this business when you were small. I mean, I guess when you were 9 years old is when you first got the idea and got this process started. Why did you decide to start your own business as a young kid who's, normally 9-year-olds today, they're playing with little cars and stuff, but here you are starting a business. Why'd you do that?
Well, it started by I was walking through the store, and I saw this little block of goat cheese. I didn't know that it was goat at the time, but I came up to it and I'm like, what is this? And I saw that it was $6, and being this big and however young I was, that was a gold mine. So I'm like, I want to be able to make this and sell it and make some money. And so we're like, okay, whatever. We had just moved out onto some land. And then I said I wanted to get goats. I wanted to make cheese. And they're like, okay, whatever. I was however old. And so they just figured I'd want a little car or dirt bike the next year, but I didn't. I wanted the goats, so we got the goats. We started making the cheese. That was pretty successful, and then we just ended up with some milk that wasn't quite up to quality for cheese making. So we're like, well, let's try soap. So we tried soap. We started making it. Everybody really seemed to like it, so we kind of walked away from the cheese and the yogurt and the ice cream stuff, and we just started doing the soap, and that's just kind of grown to where we are now.
Fantastic. And Quinn, I mean, one of the things that I like the most about this soap is it's not filled with all the toxic chemicals in the alleged soap at the store. Talk to us a little bit about why you guys chose to use natural ingredients like essential oils for fragrance and things like that. And of course, goat soap, goat milk, rather than the traditional batch witch's brew of chemicals that you'll find in most of the junk at the store.
Yeah, well, we just wanted to provide a better product. So there's not a lot of goat soap manufacturers out there, so we just wanted to distinguish ourselves by being the best. So that's why we use all of the natural stuff we can get, all of the just kind of the highest quality we can make it. So that's why we do it like we do.
Well, I appreciate that. You can really tell the difference when you use it, so that's why we have started using it in everything. Grace, I understand you are getting ready to take over the business as your brother moves into new ventures. You, of course, also homeschooled by some wonderful parents who we love dearly. How did homeschooling prepare you at the tender age of 13 to take over a very successful business?
My parents have always wanted to instill in us a sense of independence, and so they've helped equip us with the necessary means.
Awesome. And so what do you expect to do with the company?
I expect it's always sibling rivalry, so I want to make it better than Quinn did.
A little friendly competition here, huh? Excellent. Very cool. Well, looking forward to it. You planning any new fragrances, any new lines?
Yes, sir.
Not yet. Excellent. Very, very cool. And Quinn, same question for you. You, of course, have been educated at home, and you became a young and actually very successful young entrepreneur. Assuming it did, how did homeschooling prepare you for all of that?
I really couldn't have done anything like it if I wasn't homeschooled, because instead of being in a cubicle, like in a school building, 8 to 4 o'clock, whatever they get out over here, I could be here learning how to do stuff, and like actual stuff that's useful in life, and I could start learning how to do it. I could start doing it, and really just, instead of using my time up in a cubicle, I could just start doing stuff in the real world. And I couldn't have done that if I wasn't homeschooled.
Yeah, and you know, I hear that so frequently from homeschool families. It's like, yeah, not only do we do way better than the kids in the government school on the tests and all that stuff, we also have time to pursue the things that we're interested in, like entrepreneurship or music or whatever it may be. It's really, really great. Quinn, you're moving on to a new venture as you hand off the reins of your soap company to your younger sister. Talk to us about what comes next for Quinn.
I'm actually getting into butchery, so I'll be building out a mobile butcher truck, and we're also going into grass-fed beef, and chicken and pig. So we're trying to, where we're providing a healthy soap, we're trying to feed you now, healthily with non-vaccinated cattle and pigs and chickens and eggs and all that stuff. So that's kind of where I'm moving to, and then adding a butchery service on top of that, so that you know what's happening after you've dropped off your meat.
Excellent. And so that'll be, at first at least, just for the local communities here in Florida, I assume.
It'll be a smaller thing, but hoping to, of course, branch out.
Excellent. But the soap, that's available all over the country. And folks, if you haven't started getting it yet, I can't encourage you strongly enough to do it. They've got all kinds of different products that are just great. Like I said, we use them. And I think if you use the promo code Newman, you're actually going to get a nice discount. And I think it's like 10%. So we have partnered with QP Goat Soap. They do awesome stuff. Quinn, Grace, I want to ask both of you. Maybe we start with you, Grace. What's your advice for other young people who are looking at you and thinking, wow, they're already in business. You know, they're already smart. How can I do something like that? I mean, do you have any advice for young people out there who may be watching, or even parents of young people who may be watching and wonder how you can do it?
Well, I guess what I can say is, if you find something you love, it's always fun to do it. And then you can make it well, you can sell it, and just start a business.
Amen. And before we go to you, Quinn, Grace, I know you have also developed a couple of product lines for QP Goat Soap, and we think highly of them. Talk to us a little bit about what you have started working on.
So I made some hand and lip balm, and I have friends who love it. And I also do jewelry, and it's pretty fun. We've sold it through the website.
And all that's available at qpgoatsoap.com as well, huh? Excellent. And Quinn, same question to you. I mean, what's your advice to young people out there who want to chart their own path? Maybe they don't want to go work for some big woke corporation and do, you know, the normal thing, I guess, that people are expected to do. What would you advise those young people, and also parents of young people or grandparents of young people who are watching this and thinking, hey, that might be a better approach for my own children than the standard options out there?
Well, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I know a lot of people who aren't just willing to go and try something and not be great at it immediately, and there's just so much wasted opportunity when you can just go, maybe not be great at it at the beginning, but when you start working on it, if you keep working on it, then it can really grow into something that you're good at and that's needed in the community.
That's excellent. Excellent stuff. Guys, we're almost out of time in this segment, but I do want to give you a chance to tell the folks how to get the soap, the lip balm, the lotions, all the different things, and then, of course, the jewelry that you guys are working on. And then also, Quinn, let us know when our local community, at least here in northeastern Florida, might be able to use your butchery services.
Well, all the stuff you can find at qpgoatsoap.com. The mobile butchery thing, we're still a few months in development, so we're not quite ready to start doing that, but hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months we'll be ready. And when we are ready, the website is freedomrangefarms.com.
Freedom Range Farms, I love it. Well, you got some customers right here, and we'll look forward to getting you back on the program to talk about that once it's ready to go. Grace, any final thoughts before we let you guys go?
I don't think so.
All right, fantastic. Well, Grace, Quinn, Pittman, thank you guys very much for what you're doing. Thank you for partnering us with us here at Liberty Sentinel Media. We appreciate it. And so I do encourage you to get over to the website, qpgoatsoap.com. These are great gifts. You can try it out on yourself. You'll see it's a whole new world of soap. So get over to qpgoatsoap.com, and when you use that promo code Newman, you're going to get a 10% discount. You can also get the Liberty Sentinel pack, which is some of our favorite selections. So go check it out. Support young, patriotic, God-fearing entrepreneurs, and get yourself some great products at a discount. And, of course, you're helping us out here at the Sentinel Report. Thank you, folks, and stay with us. We'll be back.
Are you worried about spike proteins and how they may impact your health? Are you looking for help? The Wellness Company has an answer in the form of our clean, pure, all-natural spike formula developed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. The Wellness Company's Spike formula includes the incredible nattokinase, dandelion root, black sativa extract, green tea, and Irish sea moss. Even better, the Spike formula by the Wellness Company is vegan, gluten-free, and made right here in the US, so you know that you can trust and rely on it if you're concerned about spike proteins. Buying American-made, natural ingredients of this quality separately will cost you over $100. Our Spike formula is only $65.99. Get Spike formula today by going to twc.health. Sentinel Report users use the code Newman at checkout for an additional discount. Go to twc.health, promo code Newman, and get peace of mind if you are concerned about spike protein.
Globalism is on the march, even though there have been some relatively small setbacks. At least it seems like that to me. Klaus Schwab has been wheeled off stage, left. Donald Trump has taken a chainsaw to some of the funding streams for the climate stuff and other tools of UN empowerment. And Australia has been right in the middle of this battle for a while. If you watched what happened there during COVID, you were probably just as shocked as I was. Joining us today to discuss all this is a former member of the Australian Parliament. His name is George Christensen. He served there for 12 years. He was one of the boldest defenders of life, family, liberty, national sovereignty, constantly exposing the globalist agenda, the erosion of personal freedoms, and so much more. Today, he's a local councillor in regional Australia. He's also the Australia Director for Citizen Go. He's doing some really, really important work there. And he's got two very important newsletters that I encourage you to go sign up for. One is Nation First, one of Australia's largest Substack newsletters, and then also the Daily Remnant, a Christian Substack newsletter. George, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's great to be on the Liberty Sentinel, and thank you for all the work that you do.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, George. So talk to us about globalism. I know Australia really fell under the sway of the globalists during the COVID pandemic. What do you make of what's happening in the world today with the pushback from Trump, with what's happening with Argentina, some of these other governments pushing back against the UN and its agenda?
There used to be a funny old saying in Australia that we were always about 10 years behind the USA, and I think these days we're a number of years, it's less than 10, behind Europe at the moment, quite sadly, and they've sunk deep into the abyss. But as I'm saying, Australia is not far behind them, and we certainly saw that during COVID, as you pointed out. I mean, who would have known that the land that brought the world Crocodile Dundee, you know, the old scene, that's not a knife, that's a knife. And next minute, we're happily masking up, locking down, you know, stopping protests, violating human rights left, right and centre, and all for what? For a virus that was eminently survivable. I mean, the statistics actually showed that, but yet we had forced vaccine mandates here where basically, you know, they'll tell you that they weren't, but the reality is that they were forced because if you didn't get them, you didn't get a job. You didn't keep your job. You weren't allowed to go out in public. You weren't allowed to go to sporting events. You weren't allowed to go to museums or cultural events or anything public for that matter. So it was practically a forced vaccine mandate program, and that was nationwide. I was subject to it myself when I was actually a member of Parliament, an equivalent of a congressman. I was a member of the House of Representatives from 2010 to 2022, right during the middle of the COVID madness. I chose to leave. And I did choose to leave because primarily of the madness that I saw going on and the impotence of the political class to do anything about it. And it wasn't just impotence, it was actually acquiescence. There was a lot in the political class that actually wanted to go ahead with it. And that, you know, you talk about globalism, that actually caused me to start asking a lot of questions. You know, given that not many of these directives were coming from the public, where were they coming from? And that led me more and more to actually look into what the United Nations is actually telling Australia and its bureaucrats and therefore its government what it must do. What is the World Economic Forum doing in terms of its ability to shape and form policy in Australia? And I found out, pretty much that there was a huge degree of push that these globalist organisations actually had on the Australian public policy arena. And, that is to the detriment of democracy. For instance, we've now got a digital ID in Australia, right? Well, actually, it doesn't exist fully yet. It's being developed, but we've got digital ID laws that the government is working to. And by this time next year, we assume that there is going to be a digital ID system in Australia. And no one, I can tell you, as a member of parliament, former member of parliament, no one ever woke up in the morning and thought to themselves, you know what, I'm going to go and contact my local member of parliament about the absolute necessity for a digital ID program. No one ever stopped me in the street, wrote me a letter, sent an email, walked into my office, or did anything to indicate to me that they wanted a digital ID system in Australia. So where does it come from? Where does it come from? Where it come from was the WEF from Davos, and it come from the United Nations, both pushing in tandem, because you got to look into this. They are now lock in step. They signed an agreement. The WEF agenda is now the United Nations agenda. They call it Agenda 2030, once called Agenda 21. So this is where it comes from. And that is not democracy. Democracy is grassroots up. What we've got, and it's happening not just in Australia, but in Canada, it's happening across Europe, in the UK, places like Ireland. This is from the top down, from the very top down, the United Nations down, the World Economic Forum down. And I got to say, I think the only reason the United States is the odd one out is because one of your culture that is just absolutely infused with the liberty, the idea of liberty and the idea of freedom, and going hand in hand with that for the same reasons, actually, your Constitution, which has protected you. And, thank God that we've got Donald Trump there in the White House, because, the man's got a lot of faults. They'll let the mainstream media talk about all of that. But I'll tell you what, he's the only one standing up, just about. Not the only one, almost the only one. You got people like Orban and Maloney and Malay and a few others that are popping up here and there that are actually pushing back against the globalist agenda. But if it weren't for Donald Trump, we'd be in, a hell of a show at the moment.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. Now, George, you led some of the opposition to globalism in the parliament in Australia. There's a lot of people around the world wondering, what is the most effective way to push back on this? How do we preserve our nation's sovereignty? How do we preserve our individual liberty in the face of these top-down attacks that you just described? In the last couple minutes that we have left, what are some tips that you have for everyday citizens out there to push back?
It's a great question, Alex. Look, I never underestimate the power of actually getting in contact with your local representative, your local congressman, your local senator, pushing through those gatekeepers, because obviously when you phone their office, it'll be, the senator's too busy, or the congressman's too busy, or congresswoman's too busy. Persist. Just say, that's fine. When he's not busy, I'd like a meeting. I believe, and I think that even in the United States, that it is your right to actually sit down and eyeball your representative. Keep at it. And when you get that chance, you get in and you explain to them why, if they don't do what you ask, you are going to change your vote at the next election. So if it's a Republican, one of those Republicans in name only, we know all about them, you can sit there and eyeball them and say to them, well, Mr. Congressman or Mr. Senator, next time round, you know what, my vote won't be for you unless you start doing this. And I'm going to tell you, that's extremely powerful. I I had those come to Jesus moments when I was a member of Parliament. We're not all saints all the time on issues, and I had those moments where I had some little old lady eyeballing me and telling me that her and all of her friends weren't going to vote for me next time round unless I did something, and it smartens you up. So there's power in that. There still is power, but you got to eyeball them.
Absolutely. And George, what's the best way for people to follow you? I know you've got the 2 newsletters and also Citizen Go. How do people get involved? How do people follow your work?
Yeah, look, I'm the Australian director for Citizen Go. If there's an Aussie watching at citizengo.org. Actually, if you're in the US, it's citizengo.org. It routes to your United States page there. We've got a great campaigner in the US, Anna Derbyshire. And also, as you mentioned, I've got my Substacks, nationfirst.substack.com, which has got all about global and also some Australian stuff in there as well, and dailyremnant.substack.com as well. So thanks very much, Alex, for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your insight on this, folks. Go sign up for those Substacks. Really, really great stuff that George Christensen is doing. That's all we have time for today, but I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sentinel Report. I'm your host, Alex Newman. Folks, get involved. We're not going to win this fight by sitting on the couch or cheering on other people. We've all got to do our part. So get over to libertysentinel.org, sign up for the newsletter, and get